Hey, welcome to the 15-minute locomotion practice. You can follow along with me right in the comfort of your own home, but movement is always so much better when you can get out and actually interact with your environment and find some context. So that's what I did for this session today. We're going to start with a quick warm-up, just usual hip and core stuff that I do, these high step overs, nice and slow, making sure that the standing leg is rooted into the ground, and the stepping leg, I'm lifting it up, opening it, tilting it, and stepping over. I'm going to make sure that I go through nice and slow, a lot of control and stability. I'll go about 5 one direction and then 5 articulations back the other direction. The whole time I'm really feeling the connection in my whole body, like I said, rooted into the ground, strong core, and expressing a full range of motion through the stepping leg. Now we're moving on to some single leg hinges or single leg deadlifts. Here again, I'm making sure that my standing leg is rooted into the ground, gripping the ground through my foot and feeling that tension all the way up into the hip. I'm trying to make sure that my hips stay relatively level through that motion. And then I'm going to transition down into a split squat. So don't worry, we're going to double back and get the other side on these movements. Split squats are just trying to build some heat in the legs, and I'm really trying to feel strong alignment and also sensing good mechanics. All right, we're going back to the other leg, high step overs. I really find these movements to be so important, so foundational for making sure that my lower body just stays in good condition. As the seasons start to change now, just having a really nice spring here and getting out, walking more, running more, I want to make sure that my hips are in good condition, and that's what makes these progressions so important. They're not always the most fun, it's not always the most engaging. You want to jump right into the play sometimes, but it's well worth it to take the time to go through these basic movements and make sure that everything is turned on, activated, and you get a good sense of your alignment and mechanics. Once again, I keep stressing that. One more time with these split squats. It's nice to perform these barefoot so you can really feel the feet stretch and the toes articulate. Moving on to some kneeling get-ups next. Another really good one to stretch out the bottoms of the feet, mobilize the toes, ankles, knees, hips. Just trying to move slowly with control, tucking the toes, suck back through the hips. Right here, I'll try to catch in that knee bend position, but then as I'm standing up, I'll put my heels down as soon as I can. Trying to keep this movement pretty relaxed. And then on the way down, trying to make sure my knees return to the ground softly. Takes a little time to dial that in. Doing some squat leg reaches here, just a nice stretch for the inner thighs. Again, nothing major here, just getting ready for some locomotive patterns that we're going to go through just a few minutes. Taking some time in the deep squat, of course. This position is just so important and so valuable for our health. So any variations that you want to put in, right here, I'm just kind of prying my knees open with my elbows. I'll do some overhead reaches. Any little variations that work for you that are just going to help open up the hips, mobilize the ankles, knees, thoracic spine. I'm going to move on to some crossback squats next, another favorite of mine. Really nice way to express strength and stretch through the hips in a range of motion that we don't see on a day-to-day basis too often. Just a little pause at the bottom. Try to lengthen the spine and really feel the stretch in the glutes. Go into some squat shifting next. Stand nice and low. Again, strengthening the hips and stretching out the inner thighs. Take this one at the depth that works best for you. Give your hips a chance to open and warm up. And coordinate your breathing with this shifting movement. It's a lot of tension and heat builds up in the legs, but try to keep the movement as relaxed as you can. I'm going to do a little downward dog and plank shifting next. Get a nice stretch through the posterior chain. Activate the core. Coordinating my breathing with this movement here. Exhaling into plank, inhaling back into downward dog. And then I'm going to take my knees down closer to the ground into a crawl position and just do a little circle crawl here. One circle each direction. Warming up the wrists, the shoulders, quads, the core. Pretty much everything gets hit with the crawling. And just get a little fix right there. Now we're going to get into the practice. So I'm going to be working on this low wall for the duration of our practice today. It was just a cool piece of context that I wanted to interact with. Like I said, you can perform these movements just in your living room or wherever you are. But if you do come across a low wall like this, here's some ideas for how you could interact with it, how you could translate some of these movement skills. Okay, so crawling, obviously, we just talked about that, and now I'm making my way back to the start with some squat walking. I'm testing my balance too as I stay really close to the edge. I'm going to transition into a backward supine crawl next. And this is just a really playful practice. We're just going to stay moving here, different locomotive patterns. So feel free to switch it up, make any changes or variations that you want. I'm just going through a little orientation change right there and finishing the supine crawl by moving forward. Transitioning into a squat position. Just hang out there for a minute. And starting back. So this is a really tough effort here, this lateral squat walk. Again, I'm right up on the edge of the wall here, and those squat leg reaches come in handy here. You start to see the purpose as I slide one leg out and then shift my weight into the step. Doing my best to keep my spine long, my core strong. That upright posture keeps my center of gravity over my points of support, which makes balance efficient. Coming back through now, I'm going to stand up, balancing on the lip of the wall and going into some balancing side steps. Keep a soft bend in the knees. And I keep a pretty upright body here. Again, center of gravity over base of support. And just very methodical, very mindful, stepping, placing a foot strong, and shifting weight. Simple movement, but it takes a little bit more focus and control than you might expect. You'll have these little moments where you lose balance and the arms go up and flail around for a minute. Those counterbalancing movements, use them to catch yourself, but then get back to baseline and try to relax. There's enough tension going on in the lower body here. We don't need any excessive tension in the face, shoulders, neck, arms. Now I'm going into a step up and step down pattern, and I'm adding some rotation in the mix. That gives me this traveling effect here. But as I'm reaching to the ground and reaching to step back up to the wall, it's almost a blind step, which adds an element of complexity. I really love adding rotation to basic movement patterns because I really feel that that's at the heart of good movement or athleticism or whatever you want to call it. But we perform so many movements going in a straight line that to add in some rotation really offers us some really nice benefits and adaptations that help us perform better in our movements. And try some of these single leg toe balances as well. Now picking up the pace a little bit, we're going to go quick ups and quick downs. Just a jump step on top of the wall and back down, up and down. You could do this on a stool or a chair, your coffee table, whatever works for you, again. But if you find a wall like this, variety of drills, just play around and interact. Now I'm starting to slow things down, taking a vertical jump and stabilizing the landing in a balance. So back in that knee bend position, I'm going to jump up and try to lower down into that knee bend. Just find a moment of stability, control, and step down. You start to identify or start to notice that some reps you'll quickly jump down or fall down like I just did, or you'll have a little bit more control on your better reps where you stick your landing and stabilize. And then you can recognize that stability and jump right back down if you choose. But this is all about creating control and precision along with the intensity, along with the speed. Great job. All right, let's continue. So now we've got this little pass under transition. I call it a pass under, sometimes I call it a tripod. Really just trying to create a stable base on the opposite hand and foot, and the free leg is going to pass underneath the body and reach for the ground. So I'm just doing a little alternating pattern here. Again, if you don't have the space, you can just practice this on a table or even just the floor going back and forth. But when you look around, you can start to see opportunities to perform this movement, to jump up, balance in that tripod position, and then use that pass under transition to exit. I really love this movement pattern for how versatile it is. It can be used for vaulting over objects, balancing on top of objects, or just transitioning through different crawling patterns when you're moving on the ground. From a fitness standpoint, you're building really good core strength, nice stable shoulders, and just overall motor control. So there's a lot of, you get a lot of bang for your buck out of this simple pattern. And just finishing up today, just a little play, just a few opportunities. I'm taking a few push-ups, a little stretch, just whatever you need to finish up your practice today. And don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to play around, use those movement skills. I'm really happy we can hang out, have this little play session today. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.